There is a certain kind of person who doesn't celebrate anything at all. No birthdays, no holidays, no milestones, and the world doesn't know what to do with them because we live in a culture that treats celebration as proof of being alive, excitement as proof of gratitude, participation as proof of emotional health, and visible joy as evidence that someone is functioning correctly. So when a person calmly opts out of all of it, when they say they don't want to party, don't care about their birthday, don't feel anything on Christmas, people immediately assume something must be wrong inside them, that they're bitter, damaged, emotionally unavailable, depressed, traumatized, or secretly miserable. But what's actually happening inside these people is rarely numbness and almost never hatred of joy. It's awareness, a slow, layered, often painful awareness that meaning doesn't automatically appear just because a calendar tells you it should. That life doesn't suddenly become more valuable because candles are lit or dates are circled. Because for many of them these dates were never safe, never warm, never magical. They were pressure points, emotional checkpoints, moments loaded with expectation but empty of real care, moments where they were expected to perform gratitude, enthusiasm, and connection while quietly swallowing discomfort, anxiety, or loneliness, because some people didn't grow up counting down to Christmas with excitement or planning birthdays with hope. They grew up counting tension, scanning rooms, reading micro-expressions, noticing tone changes, tracking moods, watching adults drink too much or speak too sharply, watching smiles appear only when guests were present and disappear the moment the door closed. Learning very early that holidays weren't about joy. They were about management, about maintaining appearances, about surviving the day without triggering conflict, about staying invisible enough not to cause problems but present enough not to be accused of being ungrateful. And birthdays weren't about being seen or celebrated. They were about being polite, about accepting whatever attention was offered without asking for more, about smiling at cakes bought last minute, opening gifts chosen without knowing who you actually were, learning how to say thank you convincingly while something inside you slowly shut down, not dramatically, not in a way anyone noticed, but quietly, subtly, because the nervous system remembers patterns even when the conscious mind tries to stay optimistic, and over years those patterns stack up like data points. One ignored birthday, one tense Christmas, one Thanksgiving where you felt lonelier surrounded by people than you ever did alone, one Mother's Day where you comforted the person who was supposed to comfort you, one New Year where everyone promised change while nothing ever changed, one family gathering where your role was to listen, absorb, regulate, mediate, smooth things over, and hold space while no one held space for you. And eventually your body stops assigning emotional weight to these days, not as punishment, not as revenge, not as bitterness, but as protection. Because hope has a cost, anticipation has a cost, emotional investment has a cost. And when that cost is always disappointment, the body adapts by going neutral, by flattening emotional peaks, by treating these days like any other rotation of the earth. And one year you notice something strange. Your birthday approaches and you feel nothing, not dread, not sadness, not excitement, just a quiet blankness. And the day passes, and instead of feeling loss, you feel relief, a deep, unexpected relief. And that relief tells you more truth than any celebration ever did, because it means your system is finally resting, finally not bracing for disappointment, finally not waiting to be validated, finally not tying your worth to whether someone remembered a date. And people misunderstand this deeply. They think not celebrating means not caring, but often it means caring too much for too long without safety or return. It means learning through lived experience that real connection never arrived on the days it was promised. It arrived randomly, inconsistently, quietly, if it arrived at all. And for others, this indifference didn't come from pain but from perception, from always seeing holidays as social agreements rather than emotional truths, from wondering why the anniversary of birth deserves more attention than the act of living well, from questioning why joy should be scheduled instead of practiced daily, from noticing that gratitude feels more honest when it's unannounced and unperformed. And these people aren't traumatized, they're reflective, they're observers. They see how society collectively agrees to perform meaning on certain dates and ignores it the rest of the year. And they simply refuse to fake emotions they don't feel, because faking emotion feels like a betrayal of self. And both paths, whether built from repeated disappointment or natural skepticism, lead to the same place, a calm refusal to participate in emotional theater. Because when someone tries to throw you a party and your chest tightens, it's not humility, it's memory. It's your body remembering how being the center of attention on these days felt unsafe. forced, conditional, how celebration felt like obligation rather than care, like people showing up because they were supposed to, not because they truly saw you. And what you actually want isn't a cake or candles or photos or loud declarations. What you want is to be remembered without reminders, to be checked on when it's inconvenient, to be known outside of rituals, to matter when nothing is being celebrated. But society doesn't know how to validate that kind of need, so it pushes guilt, subtle guilt, polite guilt, disguised as concern, asking why you're so difficult, why you can't just enjoy things, why you won't let people do something nice for you. But the truth is you already tried happiness their way for years, and what looks like withdrawal is actually boundary. What looks like numbness is actually peace. What looks like indifference is actually self-respect. Because when you stop forcing yourself to care about days that only ever asked you to perform, your body finally exhales, the dread disappears, the tension lifts, and you realize how much energy you were spending pretending, managing, anticipating, regulating. And even then, even in indifference, you still notice who remembers and who doesn't. Because caring never fully disappears, it just hides to protect itself. Psychologists call this emotional self-protection, lowering expectation to survive repeated letdown. And it's not weakness, it's intelligence. Because your nervous system prioritizes stability over excitement when excitement has historically led to pain. And maybe now you work on your birthday, maybe Christmas passes quietly, maybe New Year feels arbitrary, maybe you decline invitations without explanation. And that's not sadness, that's self-knowledge, because holidays were never about dates. They were about meaning, and meaning evolves. What felt magical at 8 might feel hollow at 30. And that evolution isn't loss, it's growth. It's realizing that joy doesn't need witnesses, that love doesn't require tradition, that celebration can be quiet, invisible, deeply personal, lived internally rather than displayed externally. And when you choose that honesty, it unsettles people because it exposes that the performance was optional all along. And maybe that's why they judge you, because your refusal gives them permission they're afraid to take. Permission to admit that not every tradition fits, not every gathering heals, not every celebration deserves participation. And you're not missing out by opting out, you're holding out for something real, something consistent, something that doesn't depend on dates, rituals, or social expectations. And if life itself feels like the celebration to you, if waking up, surviving, choosing yourself, living truthfully feels more meaningful than any holiday ever did, then there is nothing wrong with you. You're not cold, you're not broken, you're awake, you're discerning. You've learned that magic doesn't live on calendars. It lives in truth. And in a world obsessed with appearances, choosing truth over performance is the quietest, deepest, and most honest form of celebration there is. Because when you step away from the noise, when you refuse the calendar's claims of importance, you begin to notice subtler rhythms of life. The quiet triumphs, the unnoticed victories, the way sunlight hits a wall in the morning, the way your own heartbeat reminds you that you are here, fully present, fully alive. Celebration becomes internal, an unspoken recognition of your own endurance, your own choices, the courage it takes to stay consistent with yourself when the world demands performance. You start to see the difference between joy dictated by obligation and joy cultivated quietly, patiently, intentionally. Without the pressure of expectation, you allow yourself to feel fully, not performatively grateful, not performatively happy, but authentically in the small details. You notice your own growth, the layers of your resilience, the ways you've survived without external validation, the ways you've learned to care for yourself when no one else could. These moments, breathing fully, listening deeply, moving through the day without pretense, become celebrations in themselves, richer than any public display could ever offer. You recognize that connection doesn't always come with a ceremony. Real intimacy, real understanding, often happens in the quiet spaces between obligations. A friend checking in unexpectedly, a stranger offering kindness without reason, a moment of laughter that isn't recorded, isn't broadcast, but simply exists. You begin to treasure these ephemeral, unmeasured experiences more than any ritualized event. Because now you know that happiness cannot be scheduled, it cannot be demanded, it cannot be performed. It must be lived. And when you live it without spectacle, it is more powerful than any show of joy orchestrated for others. You start to observe the world with clarity. You see the patterns of forced cheer, the artificial peaks of celebration designed to impress, the tension hiding beneath the glitter, and the wrapping paper, and you realize that opting out isn't rejection of life. It's a conscious decision to refuse the noise and embrace what is genuine. You are no longer a participant in emotional theater. You witness without needing applause. You endure without needing sympathy. You love without needing recognition. And in this, something extraordinary happens. Peace replaces tension, authenticity replaces obligation, and self-respect replaces validation. You begin to understand that life itself, lived consciously and attentively, is the most profound celebration. Waking up in the morning, making your own choices, acknowledging your own needs, holding space for yourself, that is more radical than any holiday, more meaningful than any birthday, more enduring than any public approval. You learn that magic is not in the show of it, but in the quiet recognition that you have survived, that you have persisted, that you have remained true to yourself. You understand that while society clings to dates, decorations, and spectacle, the real magic lies in consistency, in integrity, in witnessing life without needing to broadcast it. And this is not loneliness or indifference. It is awareness, it is intelligence, it is the deep, unshakable knowledge that you are enough, exactly as you are, without performance, without ceremony, without applause. And finally, you find freedom. Freedom from expectation, freedom from judgment, freedom from needing anyone else to validate your existence. You no longer measure your worth by how visible your happiness is or how loudly you celebrate. Instead, you measure it by the depth of your presence, the courage of your choices, the fidelity to your own truth. Every day becomes a quiet ritual, every moment a subtle celebration, and every breath a testament to the life you are choosing to live authentically.